Look at the second half of Iago's exchange with Rodrigo, his famous exchange that convinces Rodrigo that his attraction for Desdemona is simply a feeble bodily impulse, and that we have the ability to control our impulses with willpower that feeds into his whole supposedly humanistic perspective, his refusal to think in religious or transcendental terms about morality, that everything is a kind of materialistic, pragmatic understanding of human interaction. So let's read his speech once through. He's talking about love, which he's recently said is either a little offshoot, a little subcategory of a base passion. It is merely a lust of the blood and a permission of the will. Come, be a man, drown thyself, drown cats and blind puppies. I have professed me thy friend, and I confess me knit to thy deserving with cables of perdurable toughness. I could never better stead thee than now. Put money in thy purse. Follow thou these wars. Defeat thy favour with an usurped beard. I say, put money in thy purse. It cannot be that Desdemona should long continue her love to the Moor. Put money in thy purse, nor he his to her. It was a violent commendation, and thou shalt see an unanswerable sequestration. Put money in thy purse. These Moors are changeable in their wills. Fill thy purse with money. The food that to him now is as luscious as locusts shall be to him shortly as acerb as the collar quintada. She must change for youth. When she is sated with his body, she will find the error of her choice. Therefore put money in thy purse. If thou wilt needs damn thyself, do it a more delicate way than drowning. Make all the money thou canst. If sanctimony and a frail vow betwixt an erring barbarian and a super subtle Venetian be not too hard for my wits and all the tribe of hell, thou shalt enjoy her. Therefore make money. A pox of drowning thyself. It is clean out of the way. Seek thou rather to be hanged encompassing thy joy than to be drowned and go without her. This is a kind of really haunting series of lines. Rodrigo says, Wilt thou be fast to my hopes if I depend upon the issue? Thou art sure of me. Go make money. I have told thee often, and I retell thee again and again. I hate them all. My cause is hearted. Thine hath no less reason. Let us be conjunctive in our revenge against him. If thou canst cuckold him, thou dost thyself a pleasure, and me a sport. There are many events in the womb of time which will be delivered. Traverse, go, provide thy money. We will have more of this tomorrow. Adieu. He's in full diabolic mode in this final section of his speech, well, before his soliloquy in Act 1, Scene 3. Here, he said, it is merely a lust of the blood and a permission of the will. He sees that giving in to lust is actually just, being in love, is actually a form of just weakness of the will. A simple giving in to the power of lust and impulse, and that is the only way of understanding love. And there is therefore obviously a resistance to our conventional reading of love as some kind of noble abstraction. He says, come, be a man. So again, there's a kind of, I guess, negation of sexuality. And I think that's contingent upon refusing to give in to sexual desire that is somehow in his mind manly, and that's why he's so deeply suspicious of women. He's so deeply suspicious of sexual desire himself. And what we have here is Othello ? He seems to be a little bit connected to his antagonist, our player's protagonist, because they both seem to be distant from a kind of healthy, normal embrace of physical sexuality. His response to Rodrigo's earlier plea to drown himself, because he's so tormented by his love for Desdemona, is to drown cats and blind puppies. These animals that seem to be figures of pity and seem to be weak in some way. He said, kill those instead. Kill off the weak and save yourself. I have professed me thy friend, and I confess me knit to thy deserving. I am attached to your worthiness with cables of perdurable toughness. He uses a kind of metaphor here of knitting to carve out this little niche for his power that he can add to Rodrigo's life, his virtue in his own Machiavellian understanding of the term. I could never better stead thee than now. So here, I could never better serve you than at this moment in time. And the whole purpose of this speech is this is where the cynical desire for him to just take advantage of Rodrigo's money blindly is so clearly evident. So we see in these lines, these kind of the brevity of these sentences give us a sense of urgency, the urgency that he's trying to use to convince Rodrigo to get money from his assets and use it to try and pursue Desdemona. But of course, what Iago is planning on doing is utilising Rodrigo's money for his own ends, and that's why we keep getting this repetition: put money in thy purse, get money from your assets, and use it. But this phrase that he keeps repeating, "put money in thy purse," is actually a proverb. It's a proverb about a sure bet. You know, if you put money in thy purse, it means that you've banked on something that's likely to win. But it also means acquire capital from your resources. Put money in thy purse, i.e., sell your stake in a company and put the money in your purse, i.e., make it liquid, make your assets liquid. And this is what he keeps pleading with him to do. Follow thou these wars, another short clause with a semicolon separated. Defeat thy favour with an usurped beard. Here, he's urging him to engage in dissemblance with a stolen and counterfeit beard. Defeat thy favour. He means, defeat your normal inclinations and your identity with a usurped beard. So actually, defeat your normal habits, your weakness, your identity with dissemblance. Pursue your own needs. Love yourself, as he puts it in the previous section. I say, put money in thy purse again, it's urgent repetition. It cannot be that Desdemona should long continue her love to the Moor. So here, he's adamant that she will lose interest in Othello because of his lack of vitality, his lack of virility, his lack of youth, and his lack of sexual prowess. Put money in thy purse, nor he his to her. That somehow Othello's attraction to her won't last long either, which again suggests not only is he lacking in sexual virility and physical attractiveness, but he's likely to become fed up of her naivety and her youth. It was a violent commencement. Oh, I've read that wrong. It was a violent commencement, sorry. He's talking about the beginning of their relationship. It was a quick, abrupt beginning. And thou shalt see an answerable sequestration. So what he's talking about here is that this sudden, brief, explosive beginning to their relationship will be matched with a comparable separation. Now, this is a kind of grim foreshadowing of the plot here, that he's promising us that there's going to be a violent, and here he means it figuratively, but actually the play itself obviously takes this and turns it literal, a violent sequestration, a separation of the two of them. Put but money in thy purse. These Moors are changeable in their wills. Fill thy purse with money. So here, it borrows this racist stereotype. These Moors are changeable in their wills. Fill thy purse with money. He's constantly building on the prejudices of others, that Othello is sexually impotent, that the relationship doesn't make sense, that Moors change their mind frequently, and he constantly pairs it with this directive to fill thy purse with money. So he's constantly playing on the weaknesses and prejudices and actual types of delusions of others. And here pairing it with this very tangible manifestation of his materialistic desire for gain. Fill your purse with money so I can steal it from you, you moron. The food that to him now is as luscious as locusts shall be to him shortly as acerb as the coloquintada. Now, locust here we're talking about actually a sweet fruit, I can't remember the name of it now. Caribbean kind of sweet bean called, anyway, something sweet and delicious, will shortly become as acerb, as bitter and as vile as the coloquintada, as a sour apple. So the food, he constantly makes use of an extended metaphor and a verbal pattern of hunger and of appetite being associated with sex, and this feeds into his overall understanding of love and sexuality as nothing more than a kind of bodily function. The food to him, his sexual desire for Desdemona, which is now as luscious as this fruit that I can't remember the name of, shall eventually be to him as bitter and as sour and as vile as a sour apple. She must change for youth. She will switch her mind and her inclinations for someone younger. When she is sated with his body, his body, from which he is alienated himself. So this is this sense of alienation that she's likely to experience from being satisfied with his middle-aged physique. He himself, Othello, is alienated from this body. So this, he's on the nail here. He realizes that this is a source of anxiety and a problematic area for them in their relationship. When she is sated, when she is satisfied, and again, borrowing this language of food and appetite, she will find the error of her choice. So when she becomes bored of having sex with an old man, she will realize the error of her ways. Therefore put money in thy purse. Again, repetition. If thou wilt needs damn thyself, do it a more delicate way than drowning. So again, he uses this ethical language to criticize Rodrigo. He's using ethical language here to suit his own ends. And there's a sort of hypocrisy about this. You remember his opposition to abstractions. He's talking about, obviously, Rodrigo killing himself and the idea that that would be a sinful act and it would damn him. But he invokes the language of transcendental religiosity and morality and ethics when it suits his selfish ends. If you're going to damn yourself, do it a more delicate way than drowning. Do it a more kind of subtle way than drowning. Make all the money thou canst. If sanctimony, and here he's talking precisely about that high, overblown, rhetorical commitment to virtue that we see from Othello and others of the nobility. If that's sanctimony and a frail vow betwixt an erring barbarian, and this is his description of Othello, and a super subtle Venetian. So this frail commitment between a kind of naive, erring, idiotic barbarian who has no understanding actually of the real manipulative nature of civilization. They make an unlikely pair because Desdemona is a super subtle Venetian. Super subtle here means, capable of duplicitous behaviour, and she has proven this to be the case with her own father. She has proven herself to be duplicitous and capable of manipulation. So his naivety and her potential for manipulation are seen in this line, and that's the reason why their marriage is based on a frail vow. And he says, "It be not too hard for my wits and all the tribe of hell." He explicitly aligns himself with a kind of diabolical pledge. He makes himself one of the tribe of hell. Thou shalt enjoy her. And again, the language of satisfaction and appetite and food. Purely understanding Rodrigo's attraction to her as a kind of sensory relish. And again, there's an irony here. This impulsive behaviour is precisely what he criticises in the previous section of the text. So he's actually using the very thing that he criticises in the previous section of the text to motivate the man who he's manipulating. So there's something incredibly ironic about his blending of the language of virtue when it suits him and his utilization of impulsive behavior when it suits his end, and that shifting, completely unpredictable, well, absence of a code of ethics is what makes him so diabolical all the time of hell. It's what aligns him with that diabolical aspect. A pox of drowning thyself. You know, what a load of rubbish drowning yourself would be. It's clean out of the way. It's a ridiculous idea that we no longer need to think about. Seek thou rather to be hanged encompassing thy joy than to be drowned and go without her. So he's talking about, why don't you seek pleasure in sleeping with Desdemona than drowning yourself and going without her. But this borrows some quite complex linguistic wordplay here. Seek thou rather to be hanged encompassing thy joy. To die experiencing the joy that he is seeking, this, bloodlust that Iago criticizes in the lines before. This takes advantage of a pun on the word die, this hanging in your joy. The word die often in Elizabethan slang means orgasm, and orgasm itself is, seen sometimes as the petit mort, the little death. So he's saying, seek you rather to enjoy something orgasmic than simply to die and go without her. So, equating Desdemona and his attraction to it with sensory relish, with appetite, and then purely with the experience of orgasm as a way of borrowing Rodrigo's hysterical language about killing himself and transforming it into this cynical pledge for him to experience the very bloodlust that he criticizes in the previous lines. Will thou be fast to my hopes if I depend on the issue? Rodrigo needs a pledge from him. Can I rely on you if you're making all this kind of diabolical plotting? Can I rely on you to help me? Thou art sure of me. Go make money. I've told thee often, and I retell thee again and again. I hate them all. Now, importantly, he doesn't really give a direct response to the question. It doesn't actually directly respond to the idea that he can be depended upon. What he says is that he is sure of me. But that can easily mean that you clearly understand my position and my feelings and my beliefs. So he doesn't actually make a direct response to Rodrigo. And we here see the kind of stupidity of this man who is so easily taken advantage of. My cause is hearted, my cause is based on deep feeling. Thine hath no less reason, yours is also the same. Let us be conjunctive in our revenge against him. Let us work together in our revenge against him. If thou canst cuckold him, if thou canst sleep with his wife and make a fool of him, thou dost thyself a pleasure and me a sport. And here what we'll notice is this Machiavellian construction. This relationship, if we want to call it that, he deliberately goes out of his way to reveal to Rodrigo that it is purely based on reciprocal interest and it is not out of a concern for each other. He does not say, I like you, and because I like you, I will also plot against Othello. It is reciprocal interest, this kind of cynical, realistic understanding of their shared benefits in plotting against Othello. There are many events in the womb of time which will be delivered, and this kind of birthing metaphor, I think, gives his plotting both a sense of improvisational genius, that there are many events yet undelivered in the womb of time. There are things that are still not born, which will be. This is a real moment of evil, but of evil creativity that he will bring to birth and deliver the outcomes of this plot that form its tragic conclusion. So these final sections here give him a real sense of diabolical creativity and almost of kind of a theatrical imagination of plotting in the sense of a writer. He's able to manipulate these human beings like characters in a story. And there is I think a relish on Shakespeare's part for his imaginative and interpersonal intelligence that is capable of manoeuvring people in this way.